You know what revolts me the most? It's seeing two people who work in the same place, do the same job, earn exactly the same salary, but one of them is building wealth while the other is constantly struggling financially every single month. And the worst part is that the person who's always broke usually works even harder, does more overtime, puts in more effort, but at the end of the month the result is always the same. Zero in the account, overdue bills, and that feeling of never getting out of this hole. Meanwhile, their colleague, who seems to live the same life, already has an emergency fund, is investing every month, and is moving towards financial freedom. This is not a coincidence and definitely not luck. There is a brutal and invisible difference between these two people, and I'm going to show you exactly what it is. Because if you truly understand this, you can turn this game around today, no matter how much you earn. The difference isn't in the salary, it's in how these people see and use every penny that goes into their account. Let me tell you a true story that perfectly illustrates this. I met two guys a few years ago. I'll call them Rodrigo and Marcelo. They both work at the same company in the same sector and earn exactly 4,500 Rs a month. They live in the same area of the city, pay similar rent, and have more or less the same basic expenses. Apparently, they live the same financial reality. But they don't. 5 years later, Rodrigo has 150,000 Rias invested, zero debt, bought a new car paying cash, and is planning to buy an apartment. Marcelo? He's still in the same place. In fact, worse, he's in debt, had to sell his car because he couldn't afford the payments anymore, and any unforeseen event becomes an absurd drama. And when you look at it from the outside, it doesn't make any sense. How can two people with the same income have such different results? The answer lies in something so simple that most people completely ignore. The way they structure the money that comes in every month. Marcelo does what 90% of Brazilians do. He receives his salary, pays the main bills, spends what's left on whatever comes along, and hopes to make it to the end of the month. He doesn't plan. He doesn't consciously divide his money. He simply lives on autopilot. And you know what's saddest? He truly believes the problem is his salary. He keeps saying he needs to earn more to have something left over. But that's a lie. The problem isn't how much money comes in, it's where it goes. Rodrigo, on the other hand, does something completely different. From the first day he started earning that salary, he divided his money in a very specific way. He doesn't wait for money to be left over to invest. He invests first, protects second, lives later, and rewards himself at the end. This is a complete inversion of logic, and that's exactly what separates those who get rich from those who go broke. And before you think this is just coach talk or a magic formula, calm down. It's nothing like that. It's pure mathematics, it's structure, it's behavior. And anyone can apply it, no matter if you earn 2,000, 5,000, or 20,000 a month. The difference isn't in the absolute value. It's in the proportion and the discipline of following a system that actually works. Because I'm going to tell you something that nobody dares to say. You've been taught to use money the wrong way your whole life. Your parents probably did it wrong. Your friends do it wrong. School never taught you anything about it. And you simply reproduce what you see around you. And what's the result? You work, 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 and never get anywhere. It's like going up an escalator that goes down. You're trying really hard, but you're still on the same floor. So let's get straight to the point. I'm going to show you exactly what Rodrigo does every month that Marcelo doesn't. And more importantly, I'm going to show you how you can start applying this to your life, even if you're completely broke today. The first thing Rodrigo understood, and what completely changed his game, is that money has a purpose. It's not all one thing. Every real that enters your account needs to have a clear destination before you even spend anything. And there are 4 possible destinations: growth, stability, essentials, and rewards. When you divide your money this way, you create a system that protects you, makes you grow, and still allows you to live without feeling like you're in a financial prison. 20% of Rodrigo's salary goes directly to growth. This means that of the 4,500 Rias he receives, 900 Rs automatically go to investments, every month, without exception, without negotiation. He set up an automatic transfer that happens on the same day his salary is deposited. The money doesn't even go through his checking account. It goes straight to the brokerage. And that's the key. He doesn't wait for anything left over to invest. He invests first and lives with the rest. Marcelo does the opposite. He pays for everything, spends on everything, and if there's anything left over, then he thinks about saving. But guess what? There's never anything left over, because money in the checking account disappears. A barbecue comes up, a promotion appears online, an interest-free installment plan appears, and the money evaporates. Rodrigo cut this off at the root. The money for growth is untouchable. And with those 900 reais per month over 5 years, investing in assets that yield an average of 12% per year, he built 150,000 reais. Meanwhile, Marcelo has zero. But investing alone isn't enough. And that's where the second pillar comes in. Stability. 10% of Rodrigo's salary, which is 450 reais, goes into what he calls his tranquility fund. This is different from growth investments. This money isn't meant to be invested for years and years. It's meant to be available when life throws you a curveball. And you can be sure it will. The car will break down, the laptop will malfunction, an unexpected bill will appear, or you'll need to help a family member. It's not a question of if, it's a question of when. Rodrigo saved the equivalent of 5 months of his essential expenses in this fund. That came to about 12,000 reais. And you? Know what that means? It means he sleeps peacefully. He doesn't live in despair mode. When an unforeseen event occurs, he simply resolves it without drama, without needing to pay in installments on his credit card, without needing to borrow money, and without dismantling his investments. Marcelo, on the other hand, lives on the razor's edge. Anything that deviates from the script becomes a financial catastrophe. And then he goes into debt, starts paying interest, the situation worsens, and he becomes increasingly trapped. Because one thing very few people understand is that you don't get rich just by making money. You get rich by not losing money foolishly. And not having an emergency fund is losing money foolishly every single month. Now let's move on to the 60%, which are essential expenses. This is where most people make their biggest mistake. Marcelo thinks he only spends on essentials, but when you look at his credit card bill, you see deliveries 3 times a week, streaming subscriptions he doesn't even use, a gym membership he hasn't used in months, and impulse purchases disguised as necessities. He confuses essential with convenient, and in the end, he's spending 80–90% of his salary thinking everything is necessary. Rodrigo shattered that illusion. He knows exactly what's essential. Housing, food, transportation, basic bills, period. Everything that doesn't fit into that either falls under rewards or simply doesn't exist. And forcing your life to fit into 60% of your salary forces you to make conscious choices. It forces you to question every expense. It forces you to differentiate between what you need and what you want. And that difference is brutal, because when you spend 80–90% on essentials, there's nothing left to invest, nothing left to protect, nothing left to reward. You become a slave to your own life. He only works to pay the bills and never builds anything. And that's where the last pillar comes in. The final 10%, which are the rewards. And look, this is absolutely fundamental, and almost nobody talks about it. Rodrigo sets aside 450 reais every month just to spend on whatever he wants, without guilt, without judgment, without needing to justify himself. Want to eat out? Spend it. Want to buy those sneakers? Spend it. Want to travel on the weekend? Save for 2 or 3 months and spend it. And do you know why this is so important? Because financial discipline without pleasure becomes self-flagellation. It becomes suffering. And nobody can endure suffering forever. At some point you break down and then you spend everything at once in an uncontrolled way. That's exactly what happens to Marcelo. He tries to save radically, cuts everything, lives miserably for 2 or 3 months, and then explodes. He spends everything at once, regrets it, feels guilty, and the cycle starts again. Rodrigo doesn't go through that. He allows himself to spend every month in a controlled way, within a clear limit. This maintains his sanity, keeps him motivated, and makes the system sustainable in the long term. And this is where I want you to pay close attention, because this is the part that separates those who apply what they learn from those who just watch and forget. It's no use understanding all this if you don't do it, because information without action is just entertainment. You'll watch this video, agree with everything, think it's amazing, and tomorrow you'll do exactly the same thing you did yesterday. And in 5 years you'll be in the same place you are today, maybe worse, while other people with the same salary as you will be building wealth, traveling, living comfortably. So if you really want to change, you need to start now. Not next week, not with your next paycheck, now. The first thing you need to do is calculate your net monthly income. Take the amount that goes into your account and divide it. 20% for growth, 10% for stability, 60% for essentials, and 10% for rewards. If you earn 3,000 reais, for example, that's 600 reais for growth, 300 for stability, 1,800 for essentials, and 300 for rewards. Yes, I know you're thinking it's impossible, that your expenses are higher, that your reality is different. But I'll tell you something. It's always possible. The problem is that you'll need to make difficult choices. You'll need to cut things out. You'll need to give up conveniences. You'll need to rethink your lifestyle. And most people don't want to do that. They prefer to remain under the illusion that the problem is their salary. But it's not. The problem is their behavior. Look at Rodrigo and Marcelo's case again. Same income, completely opposite realities. The difference didn't fall from the sky. It was a conscious choice, repeated month after month for 5 years. Rodrigo gave up things in the short term to build freedom in the long term. Marcelo wanted immediate gratification and got stuck. And the hardest truth of all is this: you're going to have to choose. Either you live well now and stay broke forever, or you make sacrifices now to live well forever. There's no middle ground. There's no magic. There's no shortcut. It's math. It's discipline. It's consistency. And the sooner you accept that, the sooner you start building a real financial life. Because 5 years will pass anyway. The only question is, in 5 years, do you want to be in the same place you are today? Or do you want to be looking back and thanking your lucky stars for having started? If you've made it this far, I want you to do something very simple. Go to the comments and write the word structure. That's all. Because that shows me that you really watched until the end and that you're taking this seriously. And if you really want to transform your financial life, subscribe to the channel and activate the bell. Because I post content like this every week, content that will help you build real wealth, without fluff, without false promises, just strategies that work. And leave a like too, because that helps the algorithm show this video to more people who need to see it. There are many people out there who are financially stuck, thinking the problem is their salary, when in fact the problem is structure. And if this video reaches those people, we can change many lives. Now tell me in the comments, what is the biggest difficulty you face today in organizing your money? Is it a lack of discipline? Is it expenses that seem impossible to cut? Or is it simply not knowing where to start? Comment below, I read them all and respond whenever I can. I'll leave it at that and see you in the next video.